22 years ago, Tom Carper was in his first term as Delaware Governor, and Visalli was in her first year in state government as well. Now in 2016, and Visalli is the outgoing budget director for Governor Jack Markell. She made that announcement last week, and she's our first person this week. And thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
So you've been working with Governor Markell for almost 2 decades before he was governor. Really has been a team effort between you two to guide the state through really one of the most difficult periods in state financial history, certainly in recent years. Talk a little bit about how that process has worked over the past 8 years, obviously facing huge challenge in those first couple years when you first came in.
Well, 2009, when I was sworn in, January 2009, just when people didn't think things could get worse, they did. In March of that year, revenues fell $200 million. So we were sort of putting together the governor's first budget, and at the same time, we had to balance out the end of 2009. So it was very stressful, a lot of working hours. I really don't think I could have done my job at such a difficult time for anyone other than Governor Markell. We already had been working together in the state treasurer's office when he was treasurer, and even prior to that, I was his analyst when I worked for the legislature. So we had a very strong foundation to rely on, but things were tough. They improved a little bit in 2012, but really the country and our peers are still working hard to try to get out of the doldrums and shake off some of the effects of the Great Recession.
And so Governor Markell has, I guess, about 9 months left in office. Typically, we see this as his cabinet starts to move on to other things, kind of a case of right opportunity at the right time for you?
That's exactly right. I feel very grateful and fortunate. I'm going to the St. Andrews School, so I'll be able to stay right here in Delaware where I've made my home, my commitment. It's a great balance between my skill set in finance and operations management, but also really values-based and really being able to apply those skills for the greater good, continue my commitment to service.
Obviously, the national economy has improved in the past 8 years from where it was in 08-09 when Governor Markell and you came into to leadership in the state. The state economy has improved almost along those same lines. Is the state out of the worst of the worst? Is it on the way up? Are there still, is it still a chance that we could get back to where we were in 09, in 08?
Well, I certainly hope that we're not going to fall back to those levels, but I will tell you that the governor has not taken his foot off the gas. So his commitment and working 24/7 for job creation, business development, his commitment to education, especially early education, is something that, you know, until I think even beyond his term in office, he's going to continue to be focused on that. And that's one of the things we're doing to help prevent any kind of negative impact from something that may go on nationally. We continue to diversify our economy. The banks that are doing all the hiring in the states, we're very fortunate to have that, and that's a reflection of our educated workforce, where we're drawing from, and all the great things that are going on in the state. So I hope not, but I do feel that I've sort of lived through the Great Depression, and so some of the things we've done, including reducing headcount in state government, becoming more efficient, finding cuts and consolidations where possible, hopefully will help us weather any kind of storm a little bit better than we did then.
That does seem to be the sort of Markell mantra, that we're kind of streamlined and really found cost savings in state government?
That's right. So we've had a lot of cost savings. We've had really no choice. But because of that, we've been able to find more efficient ways of doing things, kept the pressure on. We've reduced the headcount in the cabinet agencies, so not education, not teachers, but in the cabinet agencies running government by over 5%, while at the same time, think about when the economy is struggling, the demand for state services goes up. So more people are using state services, and we've been able to find a reduction in the number of people we employ, which saves a lot of money, and that's through the efficiencies, consolidation, better management, better contracting, all the things that, a lot of which is in O&B, but it's really the whole cabinet as a team has pulled together to do that.
So now we're sort of in the middle of the process, I guess, getting closer to the end of the process for this year's budget. And one of the things that was in the governor's budget proposal is healthcare costs, and that's sort of been a focus over the last couple of years, but specifically for state employees this year, he made a big proposal to change the way that's been done. Talk a little bit about how that's played out, how that's sort of gone over and over.
Okay. Well, first of all, the state is not alone. The state government is not alone. So really throughout other governmental entities, the private sector in Delaware is going through this. And really nationally, I talk to my peers around the country, they're facing the same issue. So the challenge is if we continue to spend more on healthcare and don't do anything to, one, bend the curve, and two, make employees better consumers of healthcare and improve people's overall health and well-being, try to get them to help to stop smoking, manage their obesity, exercise more. All of those things are important, including working with our hospitals on payment reform, which we're doing. So we're not alone. We've made progress in that we've got a vote to increase employee premiums, but we do have a proposal to have all new employees go into health savings accounts. This makes them better consumers, gives them a deductible, and will help drive down the costs in state government so that we have money available to do other things, including education and job development. So we'll continue to work on that. I may be doing it from a distance, but I have a great team behind me that will be continuing to push for that.
And so the deadline, obviously, June 30th, as always. I'm guessing you're not going to miss the kind of down to the wire late night on June 30th or a couple of days before that week of high pressure to get it done?
Well, I will tell you that last June 30th was a little too close to the finish line for me. We had made some significant progress over the years prior to last year in getting the budget, the decisions made. Budget was printed, it was available for the public to review and voted on and passed prior to June 30th. And that was really kind of a measure of success. Last year was a tough one. They were still making decisions on the budget on June 30th. So I'm hoping there's some improvement this year, that we learned some lessons from last year. I'll still be, watching and observing. The majority of my work was finished really in January when we introduced the governor's budget, but typically from now through the end of June, we are negotiating with the legislature. We're following the DFAC meetings. There'll be one this month, and then again in May and again in June. So those revenue estimates will help guide the final budget bond bill, and then the legislature drafts the grants and aid.
And then finally, recommendation. Your deputy will be taking over your role. Recommendation for the next budget director going forward in the next year?
I will give him the same advice that the governor has asked us to follow, which I do every day, and I have since the beginning of the administration, which is to put ourselves in the shoes of the people that we serve. And I do believe if I do that every morning, which I do when I wake up, it helps you get through the day. So it helps you deal with all the challenges, whether they're legislative, the media, or the public. If I just remember that I'm putting myself in the shoes of the people I serve, it gets you through all the problems.
All right, Ann Visalli, soon to be the Chief Operating Officer for St. Andrew's School in Middletown. Good luck there.
Thank you, Mark.
And thanks so much for your time here on First This Week. You can watch this interview in its entirety at newsworks.org/Delaware.